Okay, today on the Burst Mode podcast, we'll be discussing the brand new Nikon Z6 and Z7 now that they are officially released, and we're also going to be covering DJI's two new drones. Stay tuned. All right, hello everyone, and welcome to week 2 of the Burst Mode podcast. How you doing today, Joseph?
I'm doing good.
That's good. It's early.
Yeah, Nikon mirrorless cameras.
I know, they're out now. It's 6:30 a.m. again. Yesterday we were talking about all the speculations and all the things that could be, and now it's here. And there's a lot of controversy on this camera so far because you have the Nikon fanboys versus the Sony fanboys, which is an interesting matchup. So, yeah, what do you think so far now that you've seen the specs and the two different models, Z6 and Z7?
So I'm actually a little impressed because I had tempered my expectations a little bit. I always think of first generation products, at least with Apple, and they all kind of suck. You know, the first iPhone, first iPad, first Apple Watch, and they're all really, really, really bad.
Yep.
And so when you think of a first gen product, it's always hard to have a really, really good one. So I was pretty impressed to see the specs on these, at least with the Z7, and 45 megapixel, 493 focus points. The native ISO, I guess, what's the native ISO on the A7R2?
That's the 100 to, it's either 51,200 or the 100,000 something, but it is the low, on the low end it's 100. So Nikon has always had that, well not always, but since the D800, or the D810 has been the 64, which has been great for landscape shooters because it gets us more dynamic range on the lower end.
Oh, that's interesting. I never even thought of that.
Yeah. So if we hang around 64, it's way easier to recover shadows with less noise and highlights and all that. It's really nice.
So that's the one thing I don't know yet. Nobody's really done a true low light test with either of these.
Yeah, I know. And there's been a million review videos so far, but no one's done the whole like side-by-side images at 100, 200, 400, all the way up to the higher ISOs. Yeah, that's what I'm curious about because that's what people were kind of enamored with when the Sony a7 III dropped. Was there's this $2,000 full-frame camera and it's really good in low light.
Yeah.
So along with the Sony technology, which some people like it, some people hate it. But I actually, so I kind of agree with you now on the, when I remember when we talked yesterday, you were like, I'm impressed. And I was like, I'm pissed. And mainly I guess it's because my relationship with Nikon has been so long. And I still, no matter how much I don't want to admit it, I'm still a DSLR person at heart.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the day, I still prefer the optical viewfinder over the EVF. And I know you love the EVFs.
Why do you like an optical viewfinder?
I guess I like just looking through and just seeing the world how I see it. But I guess it's kind of a contradictory subject because most people would say, well, why wouldn't you want to see the world how your camera sees it? Because that's what the EVF does. It shows you the picture before you take it. But I guess it hasn't mattered as much to me for bracketing because no matter how many EVFs you have, you can't see the bracket, the finished HDR result. You can't see everything in the highlights and everything in the shadows. So, now I will say the XT... We are
different photographers in that because you do landscape where you can just sit there on a tripod, compose your shot, get everything right. I do more people and events, and so for me, if I'm at an event at work, it's nice to be able to see because I go from like one auditorium to this little lobby, and it's nice to be able to see my...
Yes, and that completely makes sense for you. And I would agree for event shooters, too, because they can immediately see if something's too dark or too bright. They need to make some color changes even because you can even see the white balance result. So, yeah, that's all really great. And I will say that when I got the Fujifilm X-T2, that did kind of turn me on to viewfinders, the EVF, much more because it's like a big, beautiful theater looking in there. It's a huge screen. And I noticed on the Z6 and Z7, one thing that's really impressive about it is it looks like they have some of the highest resolution EVFs on the market right now. It's a 3.69 million dot. Yeah. And same with the back screen. I feel like the back screen is almost just forgotten on all these cameras. Like they give you a killer EVF and then the mirrorless back screen is like, And I even saw some studio shooters when they were shooting with this say that they're not even tethering anymore to the computer screen because the back screen is so brilliant they can just zoom right in and see everything they need to see. Now that could be partial, Nikon marketing telling them to say this.
Yeah.
But it is at least nice to see that they focus on the back screen. The focus points are interesting since they are on-chip phase detect. Very curious to see if that's actually going to be really fast, like something of the XT2 that I'm used to is actually really fast focus.
Yeah, it does.
And it is kind of silly saying that they did the 5-axis VR instead of IBIS like everyone else calls it. Of course, Nikon had to call it 5-axis
So is it the
VR.
same thing? They're just
yeah,
it's something else?
That's right. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the 5-axis actual image stabilization.
So are they doing that because they have VR lenses?
Yep, that's right.
And so they're just thinking, and they're also trying to jump on the virtual reality bandwagon, but not really. So people are might be confused and by the camera thinking there's some sort of virtual reality tie into it, maybe.
Yeah, probably. That's right. 5-axis VR. Yep. So
That's
there's
weird.
that, and then the Z7 has the 9 frames per second shooting, the lower ISO. Now the native ISO is 64 to 25,600 on the Z6.
Yeah, that's weird.
Or on the Z7, sorry. And then the Z6 is the native low point is 100.
Yeah.
Now there's argument that they did that because if you started at 64, you wouldn't get as clean of a low light result or something. I don't know how that would be true. I think personally that it would have been killer if they would have kind of defied what they've done in the past and gone to a low native of 32 on the ISO.
Whoa.
And for landscape shooters and even studio shooters, something that low would probably be a really, really clean result. Like almost no noise at all. So yeah, that would have been cool. But so what are your thoughts so far on how Sony shooters are taking this, and how do you think is it actually a competitive camera for Sony right now? What do you think the future is going to hold?
I think version 2 will likely be more competitive, but it's funny because I saw on B&H I was comparing the Z6 and the A7 III price, and it looks like the A7 III is 1998 body only, and the Z6 is 1996.
Oh.
So they beat them in price.
They did beat it. All right.
So
$2 savings.
That's right. I mean, I don't think Sony has to be worried yet at all. They've always had good video. Every Sony I've had has just really good video, and I've had a lot of Sonys in my time. And Nikon has yet to really, really, really prove that they've got good video.
Yeah, I agree.
They've never been known. Canon's always been known for good video. Sony's been known for good video. Nikon's not had bad video. I just don't think they're really known for it. So
yeah, and a lot of that comes down to the way their cameras focus in video.
Yeah,
that's been really bad. Is that Nikon DSLRs on the live view? The second you go into live view, the whole camera falls apart. The focus is insanely slow. The whole camera's really slow. The autofocus in video is pretty much just non-existent. There's no really good face tracking without that whole zoom in, zoom out kind of jittery focus. Whereas Canon has kind of mastered that with the dual pixel. Sony has all these killer eye detect and face tracking features. So I was
crazy.
hoping that Nikon would do that on this camera, the mirrorless camera, some kind of good eye detect or something, especially in video, to compete with Sony. Because even people that aren't fans of Sony have talked really good things about their eye detect autofocus in stills mode.
Do we know if the Nikon has any type of eye detect at all?
So from what I've read, it has a face detect function. We don't know how good that's going to be. They have not marketed or said anything yet about eye detect. Of course, I don't have the camera in my hands yet. That could be some kind of firmware update. But no, as of right now, there hasn't been anything reported on an eye detect focus to compete with Sony, which is a really big feature that they added because it's actually eye detect tracking now on the I think the A7 III, A9. Yeah, it's and I've seen some videos of the way it works. It's pretty crazy.
Some Gary Fong videos.
Yes, lots of Gary Fong videos. That guy loves his Sony stuff.
He knows how to use those Sonys like they were going out of style, man.
Oh my gosh,
he'll show you every little feature. He'll have his little kids running around. He can track all of them. He'll log them all in the camera somehow.
Yep.
He's crazy with those.
I know.
Sonys,
Yeah.
man.
I remember when I was actually looking at an A6000 when you had yours, just to play around with it. His videos, the first ones, was like, wait, the A6000 can do that? Wait, and that?
Yeah, I never used half of those features.
No way. See, that's the thing. I wonder, because I'm not a Sony shooter, I always wonder if I got it, would I even take the time to dive through 100,000 menu pages to even get to these things?
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
But as I was watching Kai's video with the Z7, and the focus looked... He was testing the autofocus in video, and it seemed fairly accurate, and it seemed fairly realistic. It almost looked like someone was racking focus, like, manually with it.
Okay, well, that's good.
But that was not harsh testing at all. He would just put his camera in front, and he'd go zoom, and then he would put it down, and it would go zoom.
Okay.
So we'll have to see how it works with actual complex situations.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit about video on this camera. I'm not I'm like a video hobbyist, I guess. Like, I like getting into it. I'm not a professional video at all, but so they have 4K 30, which is nice. I think 4K 60 maybe on the Z7 would have been awesome. They have N-Log, I guess, which is Nikon's log profile.
Yeah.
A lot of people are actually saying they're happy about the 10-bit HDMI out. I don't really care about that so much.
Yeah, I heard that's pretty nice.
Yeah. And then it says they have an improved version of SnapBridge, which is the Nikon like Wi-Fi Bluetooth transfer.
I never used that.
Yeah, so improved version, I'm assuming that means it only crashes like 5 times a day instead of 12 times a day. Which I made a video about that, and a lot of people agree with me about that. I made a video on my channel. If anyone wants to follow it over there at Finding Middle Earth on YouTube, and some of the comments are pretty funny. There's literally no gray area when it comes to some of these camera releases. There's comments that will say, "Eric, great review, love the honest thoughts," and the next comments will be, just destroying me and saying that I'm fat and just going the extra mile to make sure people know that they don't like the camera. It's like
photography people online can be like very odd.
Very.
And like it's like you have several different factions of photography. You have the artsy people who are like, the camera doesn't matter.
Yes.
And they all have like $10,000 cameras,
Yes.
And so it's easy to say the camera doesn't matter,
That's right.
It's like people that say it doesn't matter if you have money, and they have like a mansion with a Tesla and all that stuff.
That's
and
right.
It's like, okay, whatever, dude. And then there's the nerdy photography people, because digital photography brought out nerds all of a sudden.
Yep.
So then you have people that are obsessed with the techie, nerdy side of it, and those people tend to be a little bit more vicious online, but they're also the ones that buy all these cameras in large amounts. So It's like you got to keep them somewhat happy at least.
Yes, yeah. Social media, when it comes to photography YouTube channels, it's some of the worst I've seen, and you just have to let it go, because it'll consume you fast. When I first started the YouTube channel, I told you the funniest comment I've ever got was this. I spent like all day preparing this big camera review that I put on the YouTube channel. I think one of the first comments I got was, "Hey, nice toupee. You're not fooling anyone." It's like, wait, where did that come from? Did you watch the video? So
everyone knows it's not a toupee. It's just hair club for men.
That's right. So this video's not a sponsor. So so
that's so weird.
You never know what you're gonna get, and this is like I said on yesterday's podcast, that photographers, they're just whiners. They really are. They're whiners, complainers, nerds, people that need therapy. They need a hug. Photographers need a hug. Yeah, really do.
There's some. I love the comments where someone will pick out one feature and they'll be like, "No 4K 60, see ya," or something like that.
Yes, I see that all the time. and then there's the people on the opposite end that will literally spend like 30 minutes structuring an essay in the comments section.
Yes.
And I'll read the first line and I'll just be like, delete. It's
exactly.
Like if you're gonna spend that much time pissing somebody off, it's just gonna get deleted and it's not gonna get read. I don't know where people's thought process is. I found
that the best thing for photography, at least, is I started looking at more of the Fuji rumors and Nikon rumors, and their comments aren't that bad, because now you have a smaller group of people that all like one thing, So you have just Fuji fans, just Nikon fans, and they tend to be a little bit nicer, because you got a smaller group of people, a smaller niche, and so they all like Fuji, they all like Nikon, they all like Sony, and so it seems to be a little bit better when I've been looking at those comments. But you'll still have some people that are
you'll find some Sony users will find their way into those forums and infiltrate the system.
They'll go cross forums and try and post in there, and
Yeah, it's funny because cameras have almost become like a religion now. I mean, literally, people will pick one and they'll just commit. They'll be all Nikon, all Sony, and no matter what the camera company will do, they're just all in no matter what. And if you say anything bad about it, whether the company is right or wrong, man, it's like the end of the world for them. So going off of that, then the whole camera brand wars. I mean, it's never really going to end. All these people say, oh, if they just added this one more feature, if they had this, it would close the gap and everyone would be happy. And that's not true. No one's ever going to be happy. No camera is going to please everyone. Someone's always going to have a problem with it, and that's just the world we live in. But I do think that, like you said, it's if you step back and take a logical stance on this, most first version products are not as good as you'd like them to be. They improve with time. The argument here is that Nikon is still way late to the mirrorless game, and they've been able to kind of see other companies' mistakes. And so do you think that they were so late and that this camera is still just too standard that people are almost losing hope in the next version, and they're already just going to switch to Sony? Because I think what I'm seeing here is that a lot of people are like waiting on this to make their decision, Nikon or Sony. And from what I've seen, a lot of people are like, well, they had their chance, go into Sony. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that, again, they've been able to refine DSLRs for a long, long, long time, which is why the D850 is insane and has every feature that you can want in it. And so for a first version of this Nikon, it's got, when it comes to the Z7 at least, has more focus points than the Sony. It's got lower native ISO. Didn't really bother. Was it like 3 more megapixels?
Yep.
Yeah. For all that cropping in now that you can do. 9 frames per second is insane. So it's not like it's really far behind. And the Z6, the one that maybe most people will buy because of the lower price point, it has a lot less focus points. And I guess the big thing really is just going to see low light. But I think if you were going to switch to Sony, then I don't think this will really convince you not to. But I guess it also depends on seeing how the adapter works with it.
Yes, I'm very curious to see more on that.
Lenses, because if you get like a VR lens with this in-body VR or whatever they want to call it, stabilization, that could be a pretty killer combination. Because if you get the body with the adapter, which it really just, and we both agree, it should come, all the first gen Z6 and 7 should all just come with the adapter.
Yes, for free.
Reward the early adopters, reward the people that are going to jump on early, and just let them have it.
Yes.
Because if you compare the Nikon G lenses, you're going to have a lot lower price point for some of those lenses, and you have a larger selection of lenses.
Yes.
But I don't think it'll pull over any Sony fanboys, and I think we really just have to wait till we see people have to do like thorough reviews on it.
Yeah. I really want to get one in my hands and have me and you just go out for a day and shoot it. And if I can't find, so I see right here it says the pre-order and the expected availability is like September 27th on B&H Photo.
Yeah.
So if I can't, I have 2 camera stores that I have friends at, and I'm just hoping they can send me something. But it's probably going to be like the D850, where there's going to be like hardly any of them shipped. They're going to have shortages. That's kind of famous for Nikon. So if anything, I might just have to pre-order one and get it in and return it or something, because I have to at least see what it's about. I'm not considering switching, but I want to be able to give more of a refined and detailed approach to it after I've actually used it.
Yeah, because that's the thing, and everyone that's had it now, they haven't really done really good reviews. Even the camera store guys or the DP review guys now, they did a pretty good first look, but not. I don't know, still wasn't really that good, I still want to see low light. I want to see all those new lenses. Because the 51.8's not out yet, right? I think that comes out think so. Later in October or something like that.
Yes. And then, so speaking on that, that's actually a good point. Nikon had released yesterday their whole Nikon Z-Lens roadmap.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to pull it up right now. I probably already should have had that up. But yeah, they had talked about a 58 millimeter f0.95 lens. 0.95. So they kind of released their 2018, manual 2019, lens. 2020 kind of spectrum here for the lenses, and I heard some of them were going to be manual focus lenses, which is interesting. Yeah,
so that is weird.
It is. So I don't know that that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I guess for video shooters, they won't care unless you're a vlogger. But yeah, they have a decent lineup of lenses coming. I still haven't heard confirmation from Nikon as a source if the 1.8 lenses are going to actually react like 1.4s and.
Yeah, because I read about that somewhere, but I never heard
Yeah.
anything else about that.
Yeah, because they definitely put a lot of emphasis on this whole new Z mount with the flange distance, closing the gap on that, making it a better light transmission to the sensor, and having the lenses behave differently. But they never, at least not that I saw, they never really, went on that too much for the whole one-stop difference in the lenses thing. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see on that.
And I saw, I think it was Kai, who was saying that the flange distance could allow them to be able to adapt almost any lens to it if you get good adapters.
Yeah,
so you could adapt Canon lenses. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
Sony
then
really known for their lenses.
Then that would be more like a Sony, which would be good because Sony you can put on like any lens. You can put on the old Leica lenses. You can do Canon. Right. People have done Nikon as long as you do manual focus. There's like all kinds of third-party smart adapters out there.
Oh, and here's one thing I noticed with the lenses and the Z6 with their 24-70 f4, which I guess is considered their kit lens for it.
Yes.
Is let's see, I think it was cheaper than 2596.
Okay.
And I think that's like $200 cheaper than Sony with their 24-70 f4.
Oh, you mean with the Sony A7 III kit?
Yeah, A7 III.
Let me see here. So 2596.
Because they have another kit lens, Sony does, that's a cheaper, the 3.5 to 5.6 kit lens.
Yes.
But if you get the
yeah, here we go. Yeah, A7 III with the 24-70 is $27.96.
Yeah, so $200.
Yeah, and I will tell you something too about that. That is their original version 24-70, the E-mount, and that is one of the worst lenses I've ever shot with in my life.
Really?
Yes. Horribly soft corners, horribly soft wide open at the 70 millimeter in. That lens was just a stinker because I bought when I tested Sony out for 3 months. I bought the 70-200 f4, which I really liked. That was good. They didn't have. This was all pre-G Master. They didn't have any of the G Master lenses. I had the 16-35, which was actually good. Very little distortion. But man, and then I had the 55 1.8, which was awesome, so sharp. But the 24-70 was just so bad. So yeah, for $200 more, the Nikon kit is definitely a better value. I'm hoping the 24-70.
And you can get, and I just saw this option here, you can get the 24-70 f4 with the F to Z mount adapter, and it's $27.46.
Oh wow, okay.
So
with the adapter and the lens, yes.
Still although cheaper. It says expected availability Friday, November 30th.
Oh, interesting. All right.
So I don't know if that's maybe that lens. Because if I say body only, the Z6 body still says Friday, November 30th.
That's weird. I wonder if it was the Z7. I just read something that on B&H that said the 27th. They just refreshed the page and they just changed it.
Weird. I wonder if the Z6 maybe just is selling more and it's hard. I don't know. That's weird.
That is weird. If we go to Z7, let me go here. Yeah, it says Thursday, September 27th.
Oh, well, so the Z7 must be that.
Really weird. I don't know. They might have their dates wrong. It's happened before. But, yeah, so, I don't know. Overall, I don't want to spend too much time hung up on the specs because everyone's talking about that, and it really just comes down to, at the end of the day, it comes down to the fact that the Z6, Z7, A7 III, A7R, you go out with any of those cameras and you're going to come back with amazing images. I mean,
I know.
You just are.
I keep looking at all these cameras. I'm like, man, this is a good time to have cameras because then you have the XT3 coming out later this year. I mean, gosh.
It's a great time to be in photography. Right, yeah, it is. It's a great time to have this photo news podcast too, because this is we created this like last week, and just in that week we've had the new Nikon mirrorless cameras, and we'll talk about this in a minute. The DJI drones released 2 new drones yesterday.
That was crazy.
Yeah. So, you have any other last thoughts on the Nikon before we wrap up? I know. I mean, we could talk about this all day. We'll probably, comment on it the next few episodes. Yeah. Any final thoughts from you on that?
I like them. I like that they have the little red thing on the hand, or the hand grip.
The classic Nikon.
Classic
strip.
Nikon. Mm-hmm. It really does look like a DSLR mirrorless camera.
Yes,
I agree. It's a classic Nikon looking camera, and it looks like the grip is really thick, and like
yes, I noticed that too.
It looks good.
Yeah, so my final thoughts are it's nothing groundbreaking, nothing earth-shattering, it's nothing revolutionary. It was a little bit of a disappointment for me just because I had, I think, just a little bit different expectations. I was hoping that Nikon was going to come in for like a clutch move and just like kick Sony out of the market. Probably shouldn't have had that idea, but they're really good cameras, and I think that some professionals are going to buy them. They're not going to care about the big elephant in the room, which is the one card slot thing.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's like, even if Sony didn't exist with their mirrorless cameras, if you were building a mirrorless like in a vacuum without anything else, you would at least say, hey, why don't we do 2 card slots? Like, you don't need competition to know that you need 2 card slots.
That is the big killer for me on...
I don't use them, but...
Yes, right.
I've also never had them until the XT2, so now that I have it, I'm actually thinking, hey, you know what? I might need to get another...
That's right.
Card to put in there for if I have certain
so
events.
So it's
not
a huge. So I'm with you. It's not a huge deal for me personally now that I am a landscape shooter and more of a photography educator. I don't, I'm not worried about losing my stuff as much. But media redundancy for the wedding photographer and for the event photographer, where you get hired for one day, and if you lose your media, you're never going to get hired again. That's a very
makes sense when I hear about dual card slots, because I never even knew. I was like, so. At first, I don't even know how it works, if it does backups or if it's just like you run out of storage in one, it jumps to another, but it sounds like it's for backup.
Yeah, so you can, it's in camera, you can set it up either way. You can set it up as when SD card or XD card 1 fills up, it just moves to the second one, or you do media redundancy, which is how most of the event shooters do it, so that if one card happens to fail, they have the other card with the exact same images or video on it. So,
because that's the one criticism I'm seeing in like every comment of every website. They've all said, 1 card slot?
Yes.
Nope.
Yeah.
Or like, done.
Yep.
Fail.
That's right.
It's going to bomb.
Yes.
It's like, well, no, I don't think. I mean, clearly if they'd had 2 card slots, that would have done a heck of a lot for the perception of the camera.
Right.
Clearly.
Yep. Yeah, it's a funny world we live in with that stuff, because all the little stuff can literally, people will say that it makes them switch to Sony, but in my opinion, a lot of the people already mentally and emotionally switched to Sony. They were just waiting for Nikon to prove it to them, and then they just went along and bought their A7Rs.
They wanted Nikon to have 1,000 focus points and 8K 30 and all this stuff.
Yes.
It's not like, I really was expecting them to come in pretty low. I thought it was going to be more expensive, and I thought it was going to be, like, really behind as far as specs go. And it's really not. Outside of, like, the focus points on the Z6, 273 is still awesome, and the video is still good. I'm pretty impressed.
Yeah, so that's where we take a different approach, just because you were thinking on the low end, I was thinking on the high end. I was hoping they were going to come in last minute and like sweep the market away with something amazing, and I probably should have had your thought process, and I guess that's just because I've been a Nikon shooter for so long. I was just hopeful that I was finally going to be able to be like, haha, my camera brand rules the market now. And with the D850, they really shook up the market and did something great, and they'll make these great too. But
and the D850 was like their 1,000th DSLR or something like that.
Yeah.
They've made 1 million of them, so they're really, really good at it. It's sort of like the Apple, whenever they make a new product, it's the first version of a new product is never what you want it to be.
Right.
The iPad 1 sucked. The first iPhone sucked. I still have the first Apple Watch, which is like almost crapping out on me. So it's like, but now all of those things, the iPhones, the iPad, and the Apple Watch are awesome now.
Yes.
And so the iPhone wasn't the first smartphone, iPad wasn't the first tablet, and Apple Watch wasn't the first smartwatch. And so they had competition all of it, and so they're much better now. So I think Nikon I think this is a really good start. Yeah. And but the real big test will be version 2. And here's the tricky thing with all those Apple products, they have a new one every year. They're going to have a new one every single year.
Right.
So if you didn't get the first one, you'll just wait 12 months and you got another one.
Yep.
With these cameras, we don't know if it's a 1-year cycle, a 2-year cycle, 3-year cycle. We have no idea.
Tricky. Yeah.
So it's like, that's the tricky part.
It took them this long. It's, some people might be thinking, well, here goes on their 200-year anniversary this time. We'll get version 2. Yeah. So no, at the end of the day, you thought on the low end, which is probably a better thing to do, and you were impressed. I was a little bit disappointed. I think the Z7's a little bit overpriced for what it is. At the end of the day, great cameras. I'm happy that they're in the mirrorless market. I will say that. So
yes,
welcome to the market, Nikon. Congratulations.
That's right.
Okay, so let's move on to these drones. So DJI yesterday, when the mirrorless stuff was going on, I felt kind of bad for DJI because everyone was like, Nikon. And then I got this random email like, hey, welcome Mavic 2. Wait, what? So
bad timing.
Yep. So they have the DJI Mavic 2 Zoom and the Mavic 2 Pro. It looks like here, just looking at some of the highlighted specs, that you have the regular smaller sensor on the Mavic 2 Zoom. So that's kind of like your standard entry-level model, I guess you could say. Looks like they have better transmission technology. They added 1 more minute of flight time, better omnidirectional obstacle sensing. So I watched the video, and it looked like they have better sensors on the side to where even if you're, so obviously obstacle avoidance, but also apparently if you're tracking your subject, if the drone is tracking you or a person, apparently it takes this 3D mapping of the scene around it, and it can actually track if your subject goes behind an obstacle like a rock or a tree. It just does a better job. And that, to me, just that technology that we already have, that is insane. It's nuts. So yeah, drones never just cease to amaze me. And then we jump to the Mavic 2 Pro, and you have finally the 1-inch sensor in the Mavic series. Yeah, I'm excited about that. So I saw, and I don't know if it was the Pro or the Zoom, I don't know yet. I saw that one of them had the first optical zoom plus a digital zoom. Yeah, so that will be interesting too.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I'm excited about seeing the technology increase in these, but it also makes me sad because we live in the state of Georgia in the U.S., and at least in the U.S., drone laws are so strict, and they're getting more and more strict every day. And I bought the DJI Mavic Air, and I bought the Phantom 3 Professional when it first came out, and I loved it. Then I bought the DJI Mavic Air a few months ago, and I sold it because I went to 2 different parks and was approached by a park ranger and asked to stop, or they would confiscate my drone and report me. And then luckily I've never had the cops called on me, but like I've been around people flying just like little, like much smaller drones than the DJI, something you get at like Target or Walmart, and they'll get the cops called on them for noise complaints or spying. They're spying on me. You know, this whole thing, just people see a drone and think it's a military device spying on them or something. It's the same people when we used to work at the Apple retailer that would come in with duct tape over their iPhone FaceTime camera. We don't want the government watching on me. And, it's like, okay. It's those people. And it's a mix of, I guess, stupid drone operators as well. Running, like we said, like someone probably hit a child or, like you said, killed a dog, and then that just did it. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's a huge market, but it's just it's disappointing when there's so many places that are banned from flying.
Yeah, it's annoying. It's funny because at our church, again, we have a big church, and we have an Inspire 1 and a Phantom 2, and then I think my buddy has another drone personally that we'll use. And whenever we take it out, sometimes we'll just get we have a big campus at our church, sometimes we'll get some stock footage of our church that we need for different things. Whenever we take them out, whenever you see adults looking at the drone, they always look like, I don't know, what's that for? What are you doing with that? But then we'll fly it over, and there'll be like kids from the school there or something like that, and they're like, hey, they're like waving at it because they know there's a camera, and they're like, that's so cool, look at that, hey, look, and they're like waving, trying to get on camera and everything, and we'll fly it above them, and they think it's the greatest thing ever. And so it's just a generational thing, which is totally fair, because older people, if you see something flying above you that you don't know what it is, it's probably like the Russians or something like that.
That's right,
that they're thinking. And so it's like, it's just, they don't know what it is. They don't know what they're doing. They're more skeptical, and it's like they don't have that innocence of youth to them where they're like, I mean, drones are basically used for pictures. They're used for Instagram photos. They're used for YouTube videos. And so it's like we've just gone full, like, ban because we don't know what to do with them. So I don't want them here.
That's right.
Type of thing.
It's much easier to fear something that you don't understand instead of welcome it and try to figure out a logical solution for it.
Yeah, because they could probably get, they could probably get even better pictures of the parks. I mean, imagine if the parks were like, you can get whatever you want here, but give us your best photo and video. We can use them on our website, and we'll tag you or something like that. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So my idea right now, at least where we stand for this moment, where so many people or so many locations are banned from flying, and you have, of course, you still have the people that are going to fly like morons, and they're going to fly right into a group of people or fly into moving traffic. And then you have your responsible people, like me and you, that just want to use it for cinematic purposes, really, really good pictures, something for YouTube. The kind of the process right now is that you have to register your drone no matter what to the FAA if it's above a certain weight, which is almost every drone. And then if you want I think they call it like a commercial license, you have to go and take like a written test in person, and then that makes you kind of immune to the system in some ways, but there's still a lot of banned locations. Like if you have this commercial license, you still can't fly at the state parks, but you can fly in public a little more if you have your license. Anyway, if you get rid of all that and you just make every single person that buys a drone just take a basic like knowledge test, and then sure, they can register it, sure, they have some kind of a drone operator's license, and then they've gone through the knowledge, they maybe make them study for a 1 or 2 page exam or something. You can still have the commercial license, but if you make everyone go through that, then I think that would be probably a better process than just saying everyone's banned. Like at least
you weed out the people that are just don't really care that much. They just want to have a good time. If you raise the barrier to entry, then you're going to get the people that are real serious about
That's right. So it is kind of a cumbersome process to do that, but like I think they should actually do it like driver's licenses, like actually have like a picture on the license, and then that might scare the punks that just want to buy it and actually do want to spy on people or do it just to cause havoc in public. So that would, I don't know, at least that's my opinion right now where we are. I wish it was just free game for everybody, but there always has to be those few people that ruin it for the rest of the population.
Because these things are just insane. My brother has I think he has the Mavic Pro, the first generation.
Yeah.
And my brother, because I haven't talked about him yet, he's a hiker. And so he literally gets paid to hike. Yeah. Which is awesome. He works for a company called Z-Packs now. But he started a YouTube channel. You can search Will Wood, Appalachian Trail, or Redbeard, Appalachian Trail, and you'll find his videos on there. And the drone, once he started adding the drone to his videos, I mean, it just like, it took off because it's like his videos got so much better because these shots are just incredible. Yeah. I mean, it's like insane. Even some of the pictures now with I think DJI had a test pic of the little what is it, the new high resolution photo or something like that, where it stacks 9 photos.
The super resolution 48 megapixel.
It looked awesome. It was like a picture of like, it must have been like New York or some city like that, and you could zoom in and it still looked crisp. And that was on the smaller sensors. I'm really curious to see how this 1-inch Hasselblad camera handles in the market, especially with the super resolution thing. It's going to be cool. It makes me want to get a drone because it's like drone photography just looks so incredible. I mean, it's just a whole nother type of photography that you like was never even available to the average person. Now they've democratized that type of photography, and it's like, gosh, some of these pictures just really look awesome. Oh, I mean, it was a perfect mix of being a creative, of still being your photographer and your videographer self, but also being a kid again, just flying like a remote control helicopter. It was the perfect mix of the two. It was so much fun, and it just killed me that every time that you took it anywhere, even at like I would take it to a park by the lake that actually had signs that said a drone-free zone, like you can fly your drone here. And every time I would bring it up, even if I had the Mavic with the lower volume propellers, everyone would look at me like I was up to no good, and I would still end up have someone calling the cops and just be, hey, this person's up to no good. They're flying it like it. There's always going to be. It's always like you're causing, trouble, or you're up to no good or something. And I hate that's the whole, that people think that's the whole premise with these drones, that they're purchased by people to cause trouble and spy on people. What about the place that we went to in Alabama? So that's that okay that's still? The place. That's the place. The place with the 2 big waterfalls. That's the place where I got approached by the ranger, and they came over. Yes, and he came over to me. He was this older guy. I could have sworn he was going to come over there. I almost thought he was going to come over there and be like, "Hey, son, can I fly that for a second? That's a cool toy you got there." Because when we flew, the one time there was a couple, they weren't rangers, but there were people that came up and they're like, "Whoa, that's so cool!"
Yes, yeah, and we got incredible footage of that place.
Yeah,
that
looked awesome.
Yeah, and yes, no, but he came over there and he said he was really weird. He like stuck his mouth in my ear while I was flying from the back, and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna have to confiscate that drone if you don't take it down out of the sky." Yeah, I mean, I'm not kidding. And just like turned around, and I was like, "Whoa, hey," and of course I was like, "Well, wait." Confiscate the drone. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm just told what to do." And I was like, "Well, I wouldn't let you do that." I told him I was like, I would just like drive it headfirst into the waterfall before you did that. Yeah, I don't play nice when people approach you like that. I don't know. I consider myself a nice person, but if someone's going to specifically approach you and just start the conversation with "Bring your drone down, or I'm going to confiscate it," like why not just be like, "Hey, just heads up, can't fly that here. Have a nice day."
Finish up your little flight, and then you're done. Because, I mean, if they realize the battery life on these things, I mean, it's like 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, that's the max that you would do. And nobody actually flies for 30 minutes necessarily at one time.
That's right.
Necessarily. So, it's... And I think if they saw the footage, then they might be a little less scared, I think. Because if they looked at it, they'd be like, "Wow, our park looks awesome from that video."
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think might be a little bit better. So here's what's funny too. So that same park, okay, the one we went to in Alabama, they have, if you go a mile or two up the road, they have a different part of their park that has another waterfall. We haven't been to that one yet. I've been to that one once. I think I sent you pictures from there. So they have another part of the park, and I was up there earlier, okay, before that guy had told me that I couldn't fly, and I took a couple of pictures of the waterfall. And I had immediately offloaded them onto my phone just from the drive from that part of the park to the other part. And I had tagged them on Instagram, that park, with the photo. And the Instagram responded and was like, "Our park sure does look beautiful from the sky." And then 10 minutes later, guy's like, "It'll be confiscated if you don't take that down.
Get away from here."
Yeah, so clearly it's just the sucky part is it's just this big gray area. There's no black and white. And the sucky part is the gray area is either you can fly or you get fined $30,000 by the FAA. So it's not a very fun gray area to be in.
So, but these are... I mean, does DJI have competition?
They have the company... well, they have Parrot. So Parrot...
Oh, Parrot, okay.
I don't
know anyone that has a Parrot.
Yeah, exactly. I don't necessarily know if I would call it competition. And then there was one company, another drone... that a lot of people were getting. I don't necessarily know if I'd call it competition either. It was a hexacopter, so it had 6 propellers, and I forget what company made it.
I've seen some pro level.
Yeah. Oh, it's called Unique.
Stuff.
It's YUNEEC. The Unique Typhoon is what it's called. And
weird.
Yeah. So they sometimes give you a little bit more bang for your buck, but they're just not as reliable. I mean, DJI is just known as the standard. So I would say no, they don't really have a big competition. Yeah.
I mean, which is okay because they're still pushing out incredible stuff. So it's not like they're resting the laurels or anything like that. They're pushing out insane. I love how we were talking about this. It's like, I read they even at one point they were thinking about putting a whole medium format camera on a drone. Yeah. And it's like you have on one end you have Canon, who's like, should we really put 4K in this? I'm not really sure if that's really adopting. And then DJI, they've got this Hasselblad that they're throwing up on here.
Yeah, that's right.
4K gimbal, 20 megapixel. It's a 1-inch, but it still looks awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me wonder, if I had the money, extra money, instead of getting like a second camera, I would totally get a drone.
Yeah. I mean, because
the price is not bad at all.
Yeah. They're so fun. And now that I moved, so that was when I lived closer to the city. Now that I moved way closer to the mountains, it's a lot more forgiving up here because there's just not a lot of people. You can go fly on some farmland. And I have a second cousin, actually, that lives up in like 15 miles up the road, and he has 400 acres. That's private property. So, yeah, so I can go fly up there if I wanted to. But, yeah, it just sucks that all the places that I like, what I used it for mainly was vlogging, like it's vlogging cinema footage from my YouTube channel. I would go photograph a state park, and then I would kind of turn into a little story out of the day. But I can't do that anymore. I can't take that with me and, film myself. So
lame.
Yeah, that's the crappy part. But I can still use it for photography in some places. It's just sad to see that it's been so widely banned, and it just in general it scares people if they don't understand it. So but anyway, I guess to move on from the whole drone ban thing, I don't really have any complaints with these two. I mean, DJI did a really cool job. The finally moved into the 1-inch sensor, which is awesome, and every time they keep improving their transmission technology and their sensors, and that's what makes it way more safe and enjoyable. So hopefully, as the FAA keeps seeing that they keep adding all these dummy-proof features where the drone will literally stop in midair if it's going to fly into something.
Yeah.
The more and more we do this, hopefully there'll be some way to be like, okay, well now that this thing is literally dummy-proof, we'll start easing up a little bit.
This says it has provided OcuSync 2.0 video transmission technology, which can transmit a video feed to the included controller from up to 5 miles away.
Right. And so I don't understand that either, because I've said this in another video. So at least in the U.S., the FAA requires a line of sight flying distance from you to the drone. And then there's these people that are like, that review drones on YouTube. Yeah, they're like, all right, we're going to do the 5-mile flight test. And then, of course, it loses its transmission at like 5.1 miles, crashes into a lake or an island somewhere. And, I've seen that too. But, yeah, they as of right now, 2018, FAA requires a line of sight distance. So, yeah, I'm not sure what the whole 5-mile thing is. I mean, it's awesome that it can do that. It's very cool. Yeah. But, yeah, apparently you're not allowed to do that. But, yeah.
It looks awesome.
It does.
I mean, these things are... And here it also says they were engineered to amaze, so that's pretty good too.
Engineer. So again,
I would not want them to be engineered to disappoint.
That's
that would
right.
Be bad.
Engineered to amaze. Again, I need Johnny Ive to say that line. Engineered to amaze.
Gosh, 47.7 miles per hour.
Man, that is fast.
31 minutes of flight time, so they upped it by a minute.
Yep.
That's in a couple of years we'll have 35 minutes.
Yeah,
of
man.
Flight time.
And then the Platinum, the Mavic Pro Platinum, which is the last one, their top speed was 40 miles an hour in sport mode.
Dang.
Let's see, the tap and have you seen the new tap and gesture controls that you can do? Those are really cool.
No, I've seen a couple of videos. Well, I guess I just watched. I think it was Kai had the Mavic 2 Pro, I think, and he didn't do a whole in-depth thing in it, but I mean,
yeah, it's because they had that on
even better than their last one, then it's already insane.
Oh yeah, the Mavic Air had that, and I tried it out on just you could literally draw a box around like the person or something, and it would just track it. Like my brother, my parents were looking at some land to buy, and I met him there, and I took my drone, and they were driving down this trail in the middle of this big pasture, this big open field, and I sent the drone up, drew a little box around their car, and it just followed their car like a movie scene. It was just so sick.
That's insane.
Yeah. So they're just going to keep they're going to keep improving all the technology. That's always going to get better and better too. But I can't believe on the contrary to the camera market, the drone market, I can't believe where we are in technology. That's nuts. The whole 3D mapping, the seeing, the tracking from the air, and all of this in a consumer product that is all around $1,000 to $1,500. That's just insane.
Fits in a backpack.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And then the Mavic Air, you never got to see that in person. My Mavic Air, but the Mavic Air, I mean, it could fit in a jacket pocket. It was so small.
Yeah, you said it was like just a little bit bigger than your mouse or something like that. When
it was. So I ended up comparing it to something. It was the same size, or it was a little bit smaller than a speed light, like a Nikon speed light. It was a little bit smaller than that. Yeah, it's crazy. So, all right, well, cool. Any final thoughts from you on the drones, the Nikon stuff?
No, I wish I could get a new drone. I wish I could get a drone because they just seem so cool. You see the pictures and video, and you're like, gosh, I really want to take pictures and stuff like that. That'd be so awesome.
Yep.
And these just make it even worse. Now I really, really want
I know.
a drone, but I first need to get another camera again. But
yes, we got to get you a camera.
It'll be interesting to see this Christmas how much money I can get saved up and see if I can get close enough to a full-frame mirrorless. Then I'll have a decision. We'll have to do a whole show probably on this. I decide XT3. Wow, I almost said T3i.
You got to get the T3i.
I'm not getting a T3i. It'll probably come with 40 hours on AOL or something like that.
That's right.
XT3 or full-frame mirrorless. It'll be interesting to see how cheap the XT3 will be, because I think we've heard that they're going to try and lower the price because of the pressure from full-frame mirrorless now.
Right.
And it'll be interesting to see, because now the full-frame mirrorless is looking really really good. I mean, especially if you get like a 24-70 f4 with the Nikon, that's a pretty
it's a nice setup.
Get the adapter, and then I can go buy the lenses that I'm selling now.
Yeah.
To get the lenses maybe that I could get later.
That's right.
So.
Yep.
It's an exciting time to be a
well,
photographer.
So to wrap the video up, I just thought of something. Before we end, I'm curious now because you're a couple weeks in to being a Fuji shooter. How are you liking your X-T2 and your Fuji kit?
I love it.
Good.
It's awesome. The only thing I am missing is full frame depth of field. It really is nice because I had that 120. The camera, it's the lens I'm trying to sell now. Probably one of my favorite lenses of all time. It's the 24-120 f4.
Yeah,
and it. On full frame, the f4 is like I think equivalent to like a 2.8 on crop sensor.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yep.
And it was I just love, and apparently Fuji's working on an equivalent 24-120 f4, but theirs is going to be an f4 on a crop sensor, so it won't quite be
like an f5.6 on full frame.
Right. Yeah. So which is still good because I like that zoom range, but I do miss that on my full frame, and I went to UPS yesterday just to drop off my camera to ship it to the people that bought it.
Yeah.
And I had a little moment where I was holding it and I was just like, oh, I do like holding it because it feels significant in your hands.
Yes.
And so, but I mean, all the technology on my X-T2 just makes me get the pictures I want.
Yes.
So much easier. So
yeah, I've noticed that too. It's something weird. Whenever I would, because I had the X-T2 and my Nikon stuff at the same time, and every time I would like go back to the Nikon and just pick it up for a second, I was like, oh, I'm home. You know, it just felt like a camera. Whereas I loved the X-T2, I loved the Fuji stuff, but every time I go back to Nikon, it just felt like home.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Well, cool. I think that'll wrap up the episode. Thank you guys for watching another episode of the Burst Mode Podcast, and we'll see you guys. Listening. And listening. Sorry, yeah. We should probably say that before we wrap it up. We have a YouTube channel and, of course, the podcast. So if you guys would like to watch us every week, go and type in the Burst Mode Podcast or just Burst Mode Podcast on YouTube, and then it's just Burst Mode on iTunes. And that way you guys can watch and listen, either one, whatever one you guys prefer. And so with that, we'll wrap things up, and we will see you guys next week, or you will hear us next week for another episode.
Either way.
All right, take care, everyone.